When I learned in late 2021 that there was going to be a live-action Monster High movie, I was skeptical, to say the least. But not for the reasons most were. While others were worried about the character designs and a cheap costume budget, I was more concerned with how the themes of such a widely loved franchise may translate into a live-action movie created by Nickelodeon, whose other popular titles consisted of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and of course the infamous Last Airbender film. I personally enjoyed the new character designs and costume choices, but the lack of information we had at this time left me cold. Time went on, and we learned more about what the film might look like. More character designs, like that of Deuce and Heath, were announced, which, while they looked boring and cheap, they were nothing important to me. However, the clips we saw left a bad taste in my mouth. The acting seemed poor and cringeworthy, and not even on par with the least liked Disney Channel shows. We didn't know the plot yet, but the concept of Claudine's personality being completely upheaved and making her a nerdy main character seemed odd to me. While I largely disagree with most criticisms of the new generation's designs and character choices, this is one I just couldn't wrap my head around. I simply can't picture a Monster High media piece without Frankie as the main character, but I'll talk more about Frankie later. Once the confirmation was made that this film would also be a musical, my high expectations really dropped. I really just couldn't picture a musical working in the context of Monster High. Now, I realize that Monster High Generation had a musical or two, the one I know of being Boo York, but I never watched Boo York or anything like that, so hopefully you can understand my worries. I only really watched the older Monster High animated movies, like Ghouls Rule. I think I stopped watching at, Freaky Fusion. I don't even know if I watched Freaky Fusion, but I know I had dolls from it, so I don't know. Overall, my expectations for this film had decreased since the first teaser image. So, when I got the chance to PVR a showing of the film on TV last week, I hesitated to actually sit down this weekend and watch it. And I am so glad I did. Monster High the movie, while definitely not a stellar cinematic masterpiece, was a pleasant surprise. I have my criticisms, of course, which I will outline in this video, not to worry, but it exceeded my low expectations in a very unexpected way. Most characters are delightful to listen to and see on screen, the costume design and makeup effects are impressive, and most surprisingly, the songs are catchy and enjoyable. However, I do believe some things could be improved on, such as character choices, plot consistency, and backstory depth. So, let's get into it. While many people were apprehensive about changing some major character traits of the Ghoul since Generation 1, I think the first thing to do is to view Generation 3 as a standalone media piece, rather than a derivative of its predecessors. Think of it in the same way as My Little Pony. Friendship is Magic completely upheaved the characters of some classic ponies from earlier generations, yet you don't really see anyone complaining about that. This is likely due to the fact that this was not My Little Pony's first rodeo, pun not intended. My Little Pony had already been revisited multiple times over the years, so fans were not surprised by the newer take on the characters, which had been adapted for yet another younger audience. Remember this, Monster High, on the other hand, has only been rebooted twice. First in 2016. It followed the same pattern as My Little Pony, where Monster High Generation 2 was targeted toward a younger audience, the dolls having brighter color palettes and softer features. Most people honestly didn't even know this reboot happened, myself included, as Monster High had not regained its popularity yet. Most of these dolls weren't even really sold in stores. When you buy bulk Monster High dolls, you may find some Generation 2 dolls, but you're more likely to see Generation 1 dolls. Monster High would only really regain popularity around 2020, when the goth and scene culture started to resurface. People attached to the more gothic versions of the characters, so when the 2022 reboot was announced, people were offended. How dare you make Draculaura more targetable towards 2020 kids? Draculaura is supposed to be a goth icon. Why not just make a whole new line of characters instead of butchering our ghouls? The answer is simple. It is just much easier for a company to renew copyright on old characters than it is to create whole new ones and make new copyrights. It's business, it's nothing personal. Henceforth, I will not be considering the old designs of Generation 1 when critiquing the designs of Generation 3, as I'm viewing them as separate entities rather than derivatives of each other. I absolutely adore Frankie in this movie. They're an absolutely delightful character, and they really just brighten up the whole scene when they're present. They're funny, smart, and interesting, but I honestly wish we knew more about them. I don't particularly like how they supposedly have a huge amount of knowledge about complex topics, seeing that their brain is made from different parts of highly intelligent historical people, but they don't know things that most people would see as common sense, such as, what is a high five? While this is a slight plot inconsistency, I'll let it slide because God is it entertaining, seeing them not know how to use a phone as a phone, or how to give someone a high five. Frankie's just adorable, and I can't wait to see more of them in the animated series and live-action sequel. I also surprisingly really liked Deuce. While he definitely did give me Jughead from Riverdale vibes to begin with, he was a fun character. His actor was very talented, and I liked the character design. You can tell that they didn't have much budget for his hair that was made of snakes, because even the one time he takes his hat off, it's like blurry or something. I'm also a bit confused about how his hair works. Is it some sort of actual hair with snakes mixed in? I thought it was just a couple of snakes at the back of his head due to the way it was animated in the beginning, and his bangs that are clearly human hair at the front of his head. But when the hat comes off, it's like the actual hair disappears completely and he's got a head full of snakes? I don't know, it confuses me. Also, are his glasses just so thick that they keep his magic eyes from working? I would assume it would be someone's ability to see his eyes that would affect his powers, not the thickness of a material between them. It's just something that I think could use a bit more explanation, and maybe we'll get that in the animated series, because I've seen in the teaser images for that animation that Deuce, I'm pretty sure, has sunglasses in that, which is similar to G1, so I don't know. Maybe there's just inconsistency between the live action and the animation, which wouldn't surprise me. As small as her role was, I really liked Ghoulia as well. She was so nerdy and cute, and I thought the way she kept popping out of her grave bed was really endearing, like with her little teddy bear and she was all covered in dirt. Like, I just really like Ghoulia in this movie, okay? I also thought it was interesting to make her a bit of a prankster, like upperclassman, playing pranks on Claudine when she first arrives and everything. And I hope we get to see more of her in the sequel and in the animated series. A lot of people seem to really hate Ghoulia's design and new character elements, especially since she actually uses words now instead of just moaning, but I honestly really like this new Ghoulia. I'm excited to see more of her. Of course, I enjoyed most of the characters in the film, but those are the ones that particularly stood out to me. I honestly didn't even hate Heath's design as much as I thought I would, but naturally I do have some criticisms. Claudine was my biggest criticism. She was boring and honestly a bit irritating at times. She gave me major pick-me-girl vibes, and she just got on my nerves so bad. She was cringeworthy, and I think they could have toned back her like victim complex a bit. I don't know if that's the right word, but you get what I mean. You know it's bad when your main character is really outshined by the side characters. Cleo was also boring, and I think she could have had more traits than being mean. Seeing that she was, I guess, kind of a main antagonist for the majority of the film, I think she should have had more character traits, like an actual motivation, rather than, oh, she just didn't like Claudine because Claudine was getting close with Deuce. I don't have much more to say about her, but I think she was way too two-dimensional, and there should have been more traits for her. Hopefully, character traits like these and personalities of the characters that are more flat, like, I don't know, Laguna, Abby, all those characters that appeared but weren't really there, I hope that they can flourish more in the animated series. The most surprising thing about this movie to me was how much I enjoyed the musical portions. Yes, the lyrics are transparent and blunt, but it's a kids' movie, so that's to be expected. The dancing also seemed a bit clunky, specifically in Out of the Dark. However, the tunes are pretty darn good. and while I didn't expect to want them on my playlists, I can't get them out of my head, so I'm honestly considering it. The first song of the film is Out of the Dark, when Claudine is making her transition between the human world and the monster world. She is finally feeling confident enough to be herself, and it really shows through the lyrics. This one is stuck in my head all the time, and God, I love it. I'm not a musical fan, so I can't say much about composition, but I just know it satisfies me. The reprise is also pretty great when Claudine returns to the human world after feeling rejected by Monster High. The next one I enjoyed was Three of Us, which is sung between the three main ghouls as they practice witchcraft. I also think this one is pretty fun. I see it as a very empowering song for the gang to feel strong and confident, and I think it really preaches the Monster High values that we all grew up with. The third song I want to mention, and surprisingly my favorite, is Trust, a duet between Claudine and Deuce as Claudine tries to get some venom from his snakes without him knowing. I don't know if it's Deuce's actual actor singing in this song, but whoever it is, his voice is amazing. There's a specific twang in this song that just really scratches an itch in my brain, and I can't get enough of it.
You?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's jazz, hip-hop, there's just something, there's a quality in there that is just, wow. It makes me want to replay like a couple lines over and over again just because it's so good. I think this song is actually what made Deuce my second favorite character in the movie after Frankie, and this one is the most likely one to go on my playlist. There's something to be said about how this song is about trusting someone enough, yet Claudine is taking advantage of that trust to get something she wants, but I'll leave that one up to your imagination because I don't really feel like talking about the moral issues of Monster High right now. I think my least favorite song in the film is True Monster Heart. The lyrics are clunky and awkward, and I just really don't like it. The way the camera films the dance is also weird. Like, you'd expect there to be a hint of Claudine, like, wanting to fit in and not really wanting to dance, since she doesn't agree with it, but of course she's forced to dance anyway to hide the fact that she disagrees with the morals being presented, but there's nothing like that. Any focuses on Claudine are almost like the actress doesn't know she's being focused on. It's like there wasn't much thought. It kind of reminds me of like, I don't know, a talk show performance when artists are like performing on stage and the camera is just kind of like showing whatever they want to show without the artist really putting much thought into it. Maybe I'm thinking way too deeply about it, but I just really don't like this one. I also remember thinking that it was odd that this random teacher got a song, but of course, now that I've actually watched the movie now fully, I understand why he's the one singing it, because it creates foreshadowing and all that, seeing that he is the villain, and I think that's pretty cool. Obviously, there was some thought put into this song, but I didn't like it overall. Overall, my biggest criticisms are Frankie's knowledge being inconsistent, as I mentioned earlier. Like, they know a lot about, like, the creation of the toilet, but they also have never really seen a vending machine before. And that's also in the same scene where Claudine is kind of developed to never have seen a vending machine before, which seems really weird. I would like to know a little more about the backstory here. I'd like to know, was Claudine homeschooled and that's why she doesn't know anything about vending machines or what school life is like? Because it's kind of implied, I guess, that Claudine has been homeschooled and has never actually been to a real school, seeing that she's so thrilled to actually have like lockers and like see vending machines in hallways and everything, but none of that is really specified, so it just sort of leaves it to our imagination, which I think, especially for a kids movie, you don't want to leave way too much to the imagination. Maybe I'm thinking about it too negatively, but that's just my thoughts on it. There's also a focus on way too many characters at once. Like, we have 3 characters that I would consider main characters. We have Draculaura, who she gets a little bit of focus in her home life and how her father is strict with her and everything. We also have focus on Frankie, who's the most interesting of the 3, although we don't know much about their life at home, only that their parents are mad scientists who put them together. And of course we have Claudine, who's the most boring of the three, if I'm going to be honest. I also don't like how everyone's opinions do like a really easy 180 at the end of the film. Like, as soon as the teacher is revealed to be the villain, everyone's just kind of like, oh, okay, well now I believe Claudine about everything. So I just think it's really unrealistic, and I don't know, maybe it's just the fact that it's a kids movie, I know, kind of changes that up. There should be at least some characters who struggle to accept the fact that Monster High is accepting a half human, because like it's developed that humans are hated by monsters. So why is it suddenly, now that the teacher's revealed to be bad, that everyone just kind of sides with Claudine? Because like it's developed, there's a lot of characters in this movie who just hate humans. So like why are people so easy about Claudine being half human? Also, Draculaura practicing witchcraft, like no one really cares. Not even her father, who made it very clear at the beginning of the film that he hated witchcraft. So I don't know. I think it should have been a little more hesitation, or at least it should have taken a little while for these characters to adapt to the new world. Now, hopping back to backstory depth, where I talked about Claudine's backstory not being clear, I also think Deuce's backstory was a bit foggy. Like, it's insinuated that he has a backstory, especially where he says that he was on a dark path and he wanted to change it up this year and be better and everything. But what was that dark path? I want to know what he did. Did he, like, vandalize the school? Like, also, talking about vandalizing the school, I didn't put this in the script, but that just reminded me, who vandalized the school? Who did that? I don't think that was ever explained. I don't know. I just thought of that. Anyway, Deuce's backstory kind of like creates more questions instead of answering them. Overall, I think this film was really enjoyable, and I think that the morals and values and themes of this story will translate a lot better into the animation, since it can be longer form and it can have focuses of specific episodes on specific characters instead of having like a handful of them in one 1.5 hour film. So I'm eager to see where the next generation's gonna go from this point. So as I said, this film was a pleasant surprise, and presumably we will have a sequel, but I'm not sure if I will watch it. I mean, judging by how much I enjoyed this one, I'll probably give it a go. But as I said, I'm very eager to see what the new generation has to offer for me as a previous fan of Monster High. So, thank you all for watching. I know this video was a little haphazard, but I wanted to get this video out while Monster High was still a hot topic. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and maybe a subscribe if you want to see more from me in the future. I also am leaning more into posting art content now as well, and I want to post gaming content as well in the future. So yeah, if you have any thoughts about this film, if you watched it, please give me your opinions on it in the comments. And with all that said and done, stay safe and stay cool. This has been Peanut Butter, and I will see you all next time.